الله أكبر الله أكبر.
Assalamu alaikum and welcome to the Islamic Center at New York University podcast, coming to you straight from the heart of New York City. We're building an amazing Muslim community here at ICNYU where everyone is welcomed and respected no matter where you're from or where you're at. This is the place to be. So open your ears and your heart and come along with us on another life-changing journey. Bismillah.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله. In the name of Allah, the gracious, the merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of the universe, the master of the day of judgment. I bear witness and testimony to the oneness of Allah, to His magnificence, His omnipotence, His might, His glory, to His being the creator and sustainer of all things, the giver of life, the guider of hearts, the master of the day of judgment. And I bear witness to the fact that Muhammad ibn Abdullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His servant and final messenger. May the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him and upon all those who choose to tread his path until the last day. One of the more well-known companions of the Prophet sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam is a man by the name of Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anhu. That when the best of creation sallallahu alayhi wasallam comes into the city of Medina, Anas is just a young boy. And his mother, who is from amongst those who convert to this religion of Islam, when the Prophet alayhi salam comes into the city of Medina, she says to the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam that my son Anas, I would have him be your khadim. He would be in service of you. Anas ibn Malik, he has the unique blessing now of being able to play this role of being deeply close to the best of creation, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, offering to us insights in deep abundance of how it is that he has learned so much through having that gift of proximity to the best of creation, alayhi salam. And amongst the hadith that Anas ibn Malik radiallahu anh narrates to us, in one hadith, he says that the day the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam arrived into the city of Medina was a day that such light, illumination filled the city. And he says the day that he passes away, that light departs from the city. We have a hadith that says to us, "Man mata ala shay bu'ithat alayh," that whosoever dies upon a thing is resurrected upon that thing. And may Allah make the best of our deeds the last of our deeds. And let not any one of us or our loved ones leave this world other than in a state that is most pleasing to Him. And just as we can draw lessons from the entire life lived of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, so too there's an abundance of lesson we can take from the manner in which the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam passes from this world. When you and I testify to the Shahada, in one variant of that testification, we say La ilaha illallah definitively. But in the latter part, affirming the prophethood of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, where in some variants we say Muhammad Rasulullah, we also have those transmissions where we say Abduhu wa Rasuluhu, that he is his abd and his messenger. Meaning just like you and I, individually, are also from the ibad of Allah. The Prophet ﷺ too is an abd of Allah. That he is born into this world, he passes from this world. He has the character that is immense in such a magnified way that we can't even fathom it. But he still is human. In that humanness, our connection to the Messenger ﷺ deeply can resonate from reflecting on his last days in this world. But to also understand deeply where and how that reflection can give us an opportunity to contemplate what might be the situation in those last moments that we will breathe in this world. The seerah is important to have a connection to. Because when you want to understand how the Quran was manifest, how it was lived and epitomized, you want to root it in something concrete that removes from our existence culturally hegemonic attitudes towards religions, things that validate and affirm practices that are not found within the religious tradition. It allows for you to see how the Prophet ﷺ lived his entirety of his life in accordance with what was given to him, and removes the ability for somebody to say to you, you can't marry so-and-so because they're from this culture. Well, you read the seerah, the Prophet ﷺ was not living the Quran in that way. Somebody can validate not giving salams to people of a certain ethnic background or culture. Someone can be in a place where they utilize religion as a mechanism to push people down, not bring people close. They want to be able to give some justification to behaviors that leave many of us in a place where we are isolated, marginalized, devastated. The seerah literature gives you an opportunity to understand how was the Quran actually lived and practiced. What was the root of the mission of this man, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who the Quran identifies as being sent for no other reason as being a mercy, a compassion to the worlds. That in his own words he defines his sending, إِنَّمَا بُعِثْتُ لِيُتَمِّمَ مَكَارِمَ الْأَخْلَاقِ, that I was sent only to perfect moral conduct and ethical conduct. And in the lessons that you can draw from the seerah literature on the passing of the Prophet of God, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, you see all of this echo across it. The Prophet alayhi salam, he knows that things are a little different in that last year of his life. The foretelling of it is not something that's just days in advance. This deen begins within the month of Ramadan. That Quranic revelation that comes, that many of us seek out, that night of power, that Laylatul Qadr, in that first year of revelation. And it's relating now in that last Ramadan the Prophet ﷺ experiences, where typically he would spend 10 days in i'tikaf, reviewing the Quran in its entirety with Jibreel ﷺ. And in his last Ramadan, the Prophet ﷺ was now told to spend 20 days in i'tikaf, and they reviewed the Quran twice over. And he knew something was different. Something was going to change. The next month comes upon him, and we have from amongst the greatest of Sahaba, Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu, who the Prophet sends to be his emissary to the people of Yemen, and he walks him literally to the outskirts of the city. We have everyone please move up close. There's still a lot of room in the space. If there's any carpet in front of you, you can fill it up. It'd be great, because there's a lot of people who are trying to get in, and our live stream rooms also are overflowing, alhamdulillah. And as he walks Mu'adh ibn Jabal to the outskirts of the city, giving him all kinds of advices, ittaqallah haythuma kunt, that be conscious of the divine wherever you are, follow up a bad deed with a good one, treat people with a character that's beautiful. When they get to the place where they will part ways, he says to young Mu'adh that when you come back here, I might not be here anymore. There's tears that are shedding. Mu'adh doesn't say that, let me just stay then, O Messenger of God. He still does what the Prophet has asked him and commanded him to do. The Prophet knows what it is that's forthcoming. The time passes more, and he gives the announcement to be made to everyone that is there that for that year the messenger is going to be making Hajj. And you want to be able to understand that in that last year things are very different from the first year of revelation, where there's persecution and there's hardship and difficulty. And even in comparison, when they get to Medina for the first time, as the Prophet ﷺ is leaving now, Islam is something that is going to different communities across the board. There's a lot of people who have never actually seen the Prophet in person. The way that you might flock to go to a certain space in order for you to hear somebody speak or perform or do whatever it is that is intriguing you to go and be where they are. You can imagine now an opportunity that is going to the masses, where people have been made aware that the Prophet is going to be performing Hajj. Jabir ibn Abdullah, he says that when they are performing that Hajj, they are setting forth, and he is standing in front of the Prophet, seeing everyone that's behind him. All he can see behind the Messenger of God are just waves and waves of people. When he looks to his sides in either directions, it's just people, all that you can see, as far as your eye can see. In the course of that Hajj, we know that on the day of Arafah, the Prophet ﷺ, he stands in front of his people, 100,000, 120,000, 140,000 strong. Gives them advices and counsels and admonitions. But he also says in the mix of that message, be attentive. I don't know if I'm going to be here after this. The next day, Yom al-Nahr, the day of Eid, the Messenger ﷺ repeats a lot of the same messaging. In these days of Tashriq, those days of Eid al-Adha, we have verses that get revealed. Al-Yawma lakum akmaltu deenukum, that on this day your deen has been complete, perfected. إِذَا جَاءَ نَصْرُ اللَّهِ وَالْفَتْحِ, Surah Al-Nasr comes down. People start to have indication that perhaps the Messenger ﷺ's time is limited in this world. He continues now, he goes to the people who fell, the Shuhada of Uhud, standing in front of their graves, making dua, giving indication that we're going to be together again. An emancipated servant by the name of Abu Muwayhiba goes with the Prophet to the Baqiyah, the Jannat al-Baqi, the cemetery in Medina, where similarly he is making dua, he is giving these glad tidings to the deceased in the cemetery. And he says to Abu Muwayhiba that my Lord has given me the option of being able to remain in this dunya, this worldly existence, or to move forward from this place and to be with him. And Abu Muwayhiba, he says, then Ya Rasulullah, choose to remain in the dunya. Don't leave us. Don't leave from this place. Illness ensues, and the best of creation, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is in a place now where the fever that he experiences is so tremendous. The narrations say that it's the equivalent of 2 people's fever. Some narrations say 10 people's fever is what the Prophet is experiencing, let alone being able to put your hand on his skin to feel the heat, the way many of us would if a loved one is feverish. They said that if they just put their hand against the turban that the Prophet had on his head, touching the cloth, that was something that was so hot and intense. And at that time, there's no medications to just treat the symptoms of a fever. You don't have access to vaccines and other things. You just have to deal with it. That the way that he would find relief was that they would just pour water upon his body. And in the couple of weeks that he had remaining in the world, he goes for over a week and a half in that state, continuing to still lead people in the prayer. Because he loves his people. And if you've ever been with somebody who's towards the end of their life, and they're stricken with difficult illness, what they have capacity to do, what they have means to do is quite limited. May Allah grant all of our loved ones healing and shifa. And for those who have passed, grant them peace in their graves and entrance into Jannah without any judgment. The Prophet knows that there's people who they're going to want to pray behind him for a last time. They're going to want to hear his voice for a last time. They're going to want to be able to hear that beautiful recitation, to just see the face that shines like a moon. When he's not in a place where he can stand on his own accord. A companion by the name of Al-Fadl ibn al-Abbas and Ali ibn Abi Talib, on both sides, they prop him up and they act as crutches for him, taking him back and forth. They would pour water upon his body to give him momentary relief. He sits then on his minbar and gives a last statement to his people. He gives them admonition, saying that don't do what nations did before. Do not take my place of burial as a place of worship. And then he begins to ask for amends, saying that if I owe anybody any type of money, let me know. If I have done anything to wrong you, let me know. If I have struck you in a way, come and strike me back. And then he speaks with a little bit more ambiguity, not referencing himself, but saying that Allah has given His servant the option of remaining here in this world or moving on from it. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he speaks out saying, may my father and mother be sacrificed for you, O Messenger of God. And people are left to wonder, why is he saying this? What is going on? They would only come to know later about the keen insight that Abu Bakr has radiallahu anhu. And the Prophet ﷺ, he says that we can pay everybody back for what it is that we're indebted them towards, but we cannot pay Abu Bakr back for what it is that he has given for the sake of this deen. He starts to now become too weak to lead the prayer. He stands up and he he's unconscious. He gets up again. He asks Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, Asalla nas, that have the people made their salah? La ya Rasulullah, فَإِنَّهُمْ إِنْتَظَارِكَ. But no, O Messenger of God, they're waiting for you. Pour the water. He's unconscious again. Gets from his consciousness, Asalla nas, have the people made salah? All he wants you to do is pray your prayers. La ya Rasulullah. They're waiting for you. When it becomes clear that he's not going to be able to, Muru Abu Bakr fayusalli bin nas, that find Abu Bakr, tell him to lead them in the prayer. Inna kana abi rajulun asif, that indeed my father, he's a tender-hearted man, that he's going to cry. She doesn't want people to associate her father with the passing of the Prophet. He says, just tell Abu Bakr to lead the prayers. They go through these motions for some days. Where Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, they say he leads a total of 17 salah. The last one being the Fajr of the last day that the Prophet lived in this world. At that time, they say that he looks through his own home and they become excited. Perhaps he's coming to lead them in prayer. Perhaps he's better. And he motions to them to continue to finish the salah. In those last moments, we are told of how he relates to his family members. Telling Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha something that makes her cry and something that makes her smile. And when she is asked what it was that the messenger said, she said that my father told me he would be leaving from this world soon, and that brought tears to my eyes, and he told me I would be from amongst the first to join him in the world beyond this one. And that brought me joy and happiness. May Allah make us parents whose children would be happy to spend eternity with us. That there are narrations when she would see him in such agony, trying to deal and digest with it, the pain that my father is in. And he would say that Your father's pain will be ending soon. Gives his greetings to Al-Hasan wal-Hussein radiallahu anhuma, to his closest of family members. And then with his head resting between the chin and chest of his wife radiallahu ta'ala anha, Aisha, those last breaths are uttered. Within the course of that, he turns to the divine, invoking, asking in a way where the blessings that are given to him are like those an'amta alayhim that he says from particular groups, the Nabiyin, the Siddiqeen, the Shuhada, the Salihin. And he makes dua, Allahumma gfirli warhamni, that, oh Allah, forgive me and have mercy upon me. It says, Allahumma rafiq al-ala, going to be just with the highest of companions. The people are stricken with all kinds of pain. Uthman ibn Affan radiallahu anh, they say he just becomes mute. Umar radiallahu anh, he stands with his sword unsheathed, challenging people, daring to say that his messenger died. Ali radiallahu anh, they say he is rendered mute in that moment. So many companions that we know what their experiences were. Bilal ibn Rabah radiallahu anh, the muezzin of the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who for years now, whenever it was time to pray, he would call the adhan. The Prophet would beseech him, Arahna biha ya Bilal, bring us comfort through it. And after the Prophet passes, they still have to pray. And Bilal radiallahu anh, when the time for the next prayer comes, the Dhuhr prayer, there's nobody to ask for permission to call the adhan. When he stands to call that adhan, and he gets to Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, and says it twice over, and then has to say Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, he can't get through the statement. It's too much for him. To understand the impact that it has, he seeks permission to go live in Sham. He doesn't call the adhan anymore. And we have narrations that tell us that while he is there, the Prophet comes to him in his dreams, saying that, Ya Bilal, you haven't visited me in so long. Ya Bilal, you haven't come to see me. And he wakes up and he sets forth to Medina, goes to the grave of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in tears, engaging in his dua. Al-Hasan and Al-Hussein come to Bilal radiallahu anh, saying that, would you call the adhan the way that you did when our grandfather was still here? And because the grandchildren of the Prophet are requesting it, Bilal radiallahu anh stands in the same spot that he would normally stand to call that adhan that he hasn't in so long. And that familiar voice echoes through the streets of Medina, and the people become elated by hearing it, thinking that perhaps the messenger has somehow come back to us. This is the way the Prophet passed from this world, living to his utmost of strength, standing when he had no energy to stand, leading when he had no ability physically to lead, letting the love he had for people be a source of strength, and letting the love he received from others be a source of courage. And he lived in such a way that when he was alive in this world, people longed to be in his presence. And then when he passed from this world, that people wept in abundance at his absence. I want you to take a moment now to look within yourself. If you want to close your eyes, you can close your eyes, but to reflect deeply. That if you were in a moment now seated in a gathering that you came to an awareness of, that was no other space other than your own funeral in this world. You look to the faces that are in the room assembled at this gathering where they come to honor the rights that you have over them as a deceased. And the way the companions demonstrated their anxiety, their grief, their love for the messenger. How do people look when they're standing in front of your deceased body? When the people speak about you, what is it that they will be saying? What is your spouse going to say about you? What are the people that you pray with, will they say about you? The friends that you have, what are the words that they will share? The children that you have been blessed with, what are the things that they will comment on? The people that you work for, the people that work for you, the people that have spent time with you in any capacity, as they are given opportunity now to be able to make claim to the life that you lived in this world and where it was that you were leading into those moments that you spent with them. What would be said? As you look through the rows of the faces surrounding you, the way the Prophet ﷺ sat on his minbar asking people what it was that he owed to them, what debts had to be repaid in terms of money, in terms of honor, in terms of dignity. Whose faces are in that gathering that you still would need to apologize to for the wrongs that you did to them, that you never sought forgiveness? Who is present in that space that you have never thanked adequately, that you never expressed gratitude for? Who is in that place that would have some type of debt that they hold over you? If you think about it, and you draw lessons from the last days of the Messenger ﷺ, and allow for yourself to think, what is my last day going to look like? What will the people say? The ones that spend the most time with, the ones that see me in my most secret of moments. There's nobody who could say that Muhammad did anything other than own up to all of his responsibilities and rights that people had over him. Don't let yourself leave this world in any other state. This day of Jumu'ah is a Mubarak day. It's a blessed day. May Allah make us from amongst those who take from its unique blessings. You don't want to put off till tomorrow what you can do today. May Allah give us the strength that even if we find ourselves in illness and sickness in our last days in this world, that we can still get things done at that moment. But you don't want to wait till that time, because the strength of the Prophet is a strength unmatched. He is going off of sheer conviction, sincerity, barakah that we can't even think about. At that point when your body is incapacitated, your entire jasad is in a state of fragility, that's not the time to start thinking about who is it that I have to right wrongs with? Who is it that I have to show my love to? Who is it that I have to express gratitude to or seek forgiveness from? Take some time to read the seerah literature of the best of creation, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and to ponder and reflect upon it. And then take from the light that you can from it to recognize firstly your own light and how it is that you can share it with others. As our Prophet has says, Man mata ala shay bu'ithat alay, that whosoever dies upon a thing will be resurrected upon that thing. May Allah make the best of our deeds the last of our deeds. And let not any one of us leave this world other than in a state that is most pleasing to Him. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله تعالى فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له ونشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له ونشهد أن سيدنا مولانا محمدا عبده ورسوله This Mubarak day of Jumu'ah, go out of your way to try to give salams to somebody that you've never given salams to before. Allow for yourself to find a few moments on this blessed day that is blessed in its entirety. The Jumu'ah prayer is a blessed gathering, but the day of Jumu'ah in its entirety, from start to finish, is a Mubarak day. So find some moments to just reflect within it. What is all of this about? What is it that I'm really pursuing? What is it that I am ready to be able to meet my Lord with? Allah blessed you with family, be kind to your family. Allah blessed you with community, think about what you contribute to your community. Allah blessed you with wealth, think about how it is that you can share that. Allah has given you spiritual gifts, He's given you talent, He's given you credentials, He's given you so much. On this day of Jumu'ah, let it be the first of many days that you think from a perspective of what you have and not what you don't have, and how it is that you utilize all that you've been given with an understanding that there is definitively a world beyond this one. Where is it that I'm readying myself for it? Nobody can choose your choices for you. You want to make sure that you're making those decisions from your heart and not at an expense. Inna Allah wa malaikatahu yusalluna ala nabi ya ayyuha alladhina amanu sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad fil awwalin wa fil akhirin. Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala sayyidina Muhammad وعلى آله وصحبه وبارك وسلم يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنك عفو كريم تحب العفو فاعف عنا يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. اللهم اجعلنا من المخلصين. We begin this supplication in your name, Ya Allah, and beseech you to send your choicest salutations upon your most beloved sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. We ask that you shower your infinite mercy upon this gathering, granting each and every one who is present herein and our loved ones only the best in this world and the best in the next. We ask, Ya Allah, that if all of us are meant to be together only at this time, at this place, whether we are young or old, male or female, regardless of our race, our ethnicity, our social class, our country of origin, our cultural heritage, whether we are Muslim or come from a different walk of life, Ya Rabbi, if our individual hearts are meant to be in the presence of all of their hearts that are gathered here, only at this time, at this place, then gather us all together again in the best of places in the world beyond this one. Increase us, Ya Allah, in all that is good. Increase us in courage, compassion, and confidence. Protect us from affliction, anxiety, and anguish. Remove from our hearts any feelings of bitterness, jealousy, animosity, or envy towards any of your creation. Grant us hearts that are filled with understanding and hope. Hearts that are drawn towards things of real goodness and beauty. Hearts that find themselves deep in your remembrance. For indeed in your remembrance do hearts find rest. Help each one of us, Ya Allah, to reflect deeply and meaningfully on the reality that is the world beyond this one. Let each one of us know with a sense of deep spiritual reflection and contentment that it is you who allocates the number of breaths that we breathe in this world. There's no guarantee that when the sun rises upon us on a day that we will be able to meet the night that is attached to that day. Or that when we go to bed in the darkness of the night that we may not wake up the next morning. Help us, Ya Allah, to draw benefit from the remembrance on what will be our last moments in this world. Let not any one of us leave behind any minute of any hour of any day that you have blessed for us to do other than what it is that is pleasing to you. When we make mistakes, and we will make mistakes, Ya Allah, help us to remember to always turn back to you, to remember your mercy, to remember your love, to not define and identify ourselves based off of our own worst perspectives, but to seek to see ourselves the way that you see us. Help us to use our time to be a source of upliftment for all of your creation around us. Let us never be the reason as to why someone may turn away from you. Forgive us for our harshness, our lack of consideration. Forgive us for when we spoke when we should have been silent, and for being silent at the times that we should have been speaking. Forgive us for not expressing gratitude to those that have done for us, to not seeking forgiveness from those that we have wronged, or to hold on to bitterness in our heart and not work towards forgiving those that have wronged us. Enable us, Ya Rabbi, to meet you with a heart that is in a state of peace, purification, and rest. And let us embody the actions of those who understand that our time spent in this world most definitely will inform our place in the world beyond this one. Ya Allah, make us from the people of Jannah. Protect us always from hearts that are not humble, tongues that are not wise, and eyes that have forgotten how to cry. Forgive us for our shortcomings and guide and bless us all. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله تعالى على خير خلقه محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وأقم الصلاة.
We hope you enjoyed our podcast. If you're inspired by the work that we're doing at the IC and want to help keep it going, subscribe to our podcasts, follow us on social media, donate to help support us at ICNYU.org, and most importantly, keep us in your continued du'as. Until next time, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum.